Just comb your hair, go and wash your face. It's been a real long time since you've seen the light of day. So let thoughts come as they may, beauty and parade. Everybody all smiles when you're back in the seat again. On aboard the Petty Express to a beautiful darkness. It's full steam ahead to ride the rails to our next destination.
Welcome, welcome, everyone. I am Mo, your conductress of snark, your sailor scout of sarcasm, and hopefully I didn't glitch out too much there. We are doing the very first react on the Petty Express, and I figured no better stream to react to than the very first, Baker's book club about the Karen Reed case. He did talk to Yellow Cottage Tales about, his book that is currently on Amazon, and I just thought it would be a barrel full of laughs and snark. And honestly, y'all, I couldn't take the defense one more minute today, although I will probably do a stream for Linda Sturmer to catch up today, but I just needed a break from Linda Sturmer altogether. So is everyone buckled in? Do you have your emotional support drink? Emotional support, Mike and Ike's, or anything else that you need, because we are ready to roll. And welcome. Thank you, Wolfram, for all of your Modly Mod duties. I am Princess KLF. Tammy Bogard is Spirit Flex. Fleck, not Flex. Let's go. Also, big news. I got my new walker, the Moanator. It's upright. I've got little handlebars. And it looks kind of like a pilot thing, like if I was playing a video game, which is pretty fun. So that is awesome. Good morning, Christine, or afternoon, I guess. All righty. Welcome, Kelly and Tamara, Beak, C, and Jedi Jess. Tim, yeah, get your emotional support hairpiece. Y'all, I caught youngest most feral wearing that hideodorous headband last night. I don't know why. When I asked him, why did you have, a headband? Yeah, no, it's staying in the car until it's safe in the locked room in the basement. All right, let's buckle in, you guys, and get into this. Let the snark flow.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whoever you are, what, if any, you might be. And welcome to this book club. It's my second book club. First one was my own release on my children's book. Today we have Kevin from Yellow Cottage Tale on to talk about his book on his view of the Karen Reed case. Or would you claim I've been reading it and I've told you, and you people who follow us on Twitter know we don't always agree on everything. Mostly not. Is it meant to be a fact book? Is this going to be, okay, I'm going to...
Okay, so when someone has to ask you if your true crime book is true or fictional, it could be that you're not, following facts. Again, if someone has completely read your book and is still unclear as to whether it is actually factual or fiction, then there might be some, clarity issues in the writing. Now, that being said, I've only read snippets, and as a squirrel ADHD person, I have never met someone that squirrels more than me, but I haven't written a book either, so I can't throw no stones.
Look up, what did Higgins say? What did Karen Reed say in the case? Or is it more a fictionalized retelling of the characters around the case?
It is a 911 reenactment where we put beautiful people up to reenact the 911. And then at the end of the show is like one guy with a lazy eye and the woman's like 700 pounds. That's what I'm guessing. But again, I've only read a little bit of the book. Look, I am committed to my Smexy reading first before I have to read real stuff.
I'm not sure why you would use the term fictionalized, because there's nothing. The only fictionalized part of the book was I did take a stab, and later in the book,
You mean take a drive-by? I mean, if you're writing about murder, should you take a stab at anything? Just asking for a friend.
on trying to do a chapter from Karen's point of view, and from the point of view that she actually is innocent. That was speculative. Actually, there was one other chapter where I did a speculative chapter on from Paul O'Keefe's point of view, from getting the.
Now, I do have a question. I have never really watched Yellow Cottage Tale. Was he a former police officer, a detective, a journalist? Again, I don't subscribe to, the sort of fallacy of authority, but from where and from what is he getting his information would be my question.
Call that morning, him and his wife are in bed, and they get the call that John's in the hospital, and that he's in a bad situation. But everything else is meticulously researched, factually
Meticulously, not meticulously. As George Carlin has said, we all agreed on the English language because you use it as we agreed. And Jedi Jess says no major history major who worked in corporate America before going back to bartending and owning a bar. And again, I don't subscribe to, the fallacy of authority. So I'm not going to look down on him if he has meticulous data and, well-resourced facts. The problem is there's usually a methodology by which you do this. Now, if he is a historian, if he kind of understands how to organize and catalog information, my problem is the sources that he uses. So that being said, I haven't watched the man, but I don't know.
accurate. I followed every part of this case in this hearing for a long time. Now, we can disagree on the meaning of facts, but everything in there is factual. And one of the things that we see in this case, and I don't follow your channel enough I don't.
Oh, I also knew I needed my Sally Jesse's glasses on, just to see all the snark. But I needed, the spirit of Sally Jesse Raphael with me today, because I have a feeling I'm going to need to call some peoples out. Also, what a dick move. Again, like, honest to God, evidence, logic, truth. I mean, just put your name up there. Again, are you the sole authority on evidence, logic, and truth? This is the same thing we had with the, expert yesterday. If you are so sold on your own idea that you are unwilling to listen to things that might challenge your hypothesis, then you are probably wrong. And I don't say this because I've watched this man, but what I can say is if you are so married to your idea that you refuse to listen to any other perspective or any other information, then you truly are not investigating and covering this case the way you should. Allegedly. But I don't know him. I just think this is look, not classy. Just put your name up there, because I have logic, evidence, and truth, and he's just a baker. Not realizing that, Baker is a lay juror. Maybe if you watched Baker's stuff, you would realize that he was into politics, did many things other than a baker. Don't ever assume something just because you don't know someone's background.
Follow it, so I don't know. So I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt that you want to focus on facts too. But
Yes.
The benefit of the doubt, excuse me, as a card-carrying member of the Baker Army, we do not. Baker comes with facts and receipts. We do not. Oh, for the love. It's the tone in which he is already condescending that is already running up my spine. And when running up my spine, and when it gets to my head, now, as Megan Fox always says, if you have breadstick money, not ramen noodle money, and you feel the desire, the burn-in desire in your soul to donate to the Curse Jar Fund and the Dollywood Fund, that would be greatly appreciated. But a like, a subscribe, and a share with your friends is always great. There, I have done my grifting. I'm trying. I'm learning from Baker. He sent me the first thing, and he's like, just grift.
We have to understand that it's the job of a defense team to try to manufacture doubt by making.
Oh my God, he's doing the Kamala Harris. He is talking to Baker like he's 4. We have to understand. Now, sir, I get that you are American, and I wish we could change the stereotype, but Baker is actually fluent in about 5 languages, so you don't need to talk louder and slower. Oh, this man's gonna creep all up my spine. I just know it.
Making everything seem odd.
Yeah, and also KLF, it is the burden is always on the state. This is burden shifting, and if you had researched anything, you would realize how much burden shifting is a big problem in the legal justice system. Had you done thorough, inclusive research, you would realize that it is always the state's burden. That's kind of like a basic tenet of our legal system. Also, bad pause game.
And putting out a lot of things that may not actually be true. And people in the public, everyone should have the common sense to understand that that's the job of the defense.
No, the defense cannot put lies out. They are still officers of the court. They are still required to be ethical. I don't know where this man got his news on on how the legal stuff works, but it is always the state's job to prove. And the defense can't put out abject lies. Again, they are held to the same standard of ethics that the prosecutors are. They are considered a representative of the court. Oh, I would have already started drinking, y'all. The tone, the condescension tone, that runs right all up my spine. I would have started sassy. Baker is using the Jesus in him, because I'd already been like, okay, I see that we have picked violence allegedly in Minecraft and only figuratively. Yes, that's the language that we picked. So understand what figuratively means. Thank you, YouTube. Oh, dear God.
And we've got this here nonstop in this case from library gaps in the library surveillance that didn't exist, non-human hairs, the idea that the feds couldn't, in good conscience, allow this trial to continue. The John's clothing being in the back of Michael Proctor's car for 6 weeks, on and on and on. I don't know why we in the public are so gullible to this stuff, except that there is sometimes a conspiracy theory that we just really, 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 it hits us in a way that we want to believe it. So we stop.
No, see, here's the problem, because again, this discounts the intellectual integrity, the intelligence of every person on the other side. You do not go into a debate honestly. Look, y'all, I don't know how much I'm going to take of this man. We might check in on the Linda Sturmer, because, oh my God, this man is already crawling up my effing nerves. Any hoozle. If you go into a conversation like this, already discounting the mental, integrity of the other side, you have already lost, because you are trying to attract the people in the middle. If you are condescending and an ass, you are not going to win people over. Calling people basically stupid as a sales pitch is about as dumb as sending, new parolees out to a good neighborhood with their Kirby vacuums. Let's roll the logic train all the way through. If you call people dumbass morons, do you think you're going to get them on their side? No one said, oh God, thank you for the criticism. I feel so much better. I'm such an idiot. Let me follow you. No.
Stop looking at the evidence and stop looking at the official explanations. I wanted to try to correct that in this book. And I'm sorry about the long answer, Baker.
No, it's fine.
No, continue to talk. Never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. Because again, all this man is portraying is arrogance. He feels smarter than you. Again, this is the sort of self-congratulatory arrogance that leads to bad investigations. when you suddenly start to huff your own farts and think that you are the best idea ever, then you aren't willing to look at your hypothesis. So no. Again, treating the opposing side as if they are subhuman, morons who barely evolved, who walk on 2 feet, is again not a way to have a genuine conversation. But again, that's how he is presenting.
And I will also give a long answer to your long answer, because what you're
That's
saying
fine.
is inaccurate. You said that defense is saying things that's not.
Go Baker, go Baker. It's your birthday. I don't think so, but it's almost time for you to get a haircut. I'm sorry, I had to stop because Mr. Evidence Logic Truth equation over here was pissing me off.
True.
just
Did you
named
have
him.
a
I just
did
named
you
him.
have a legal consultant on your book?
I'm not answering questions like that. Everything I said in there.
Okay, now elucidate for me, chat. Does this man have a following? Is he under, investigation from the feds? I'm not going to answer that. No, normally people would answer that they had legal consultancy because this is a legal case, and you would want to run it by someone who, I don't know, went to law school to confirm, what you are. Again, as a layperson, I'm not going to pretend to know the law. So I would run anything I was writing, about law, about a case, by a lawyer, because I am fully aware of my ignorance. See, this is what happens when you cannot accept that you might be wrong. And that is how we get terrible, terrible, terrible cases, because the police in this case thought they knew what they were doing and closed their eyes to every other possibility, no matter how outrageous. It's ridiculous. And also, sir, you could have owned a ski lodge in a John Hughes movie. You have, and it's okay, I'm not a bodyologist, but again, this is a resting, I own my place. I feel comfortable and confident in my, hypothesis.
There's factual. There is no library gap. There is no non-human hair. The hair was matched definitively through DNA to John. All right. So
no, the hair was matched definitively through mitochondrial DNA. Now, mitochondrial DNA runs through the maternal line, sir. Now, had you researched this even cursory, done cursory research, you would realize that mitochondrial DNA means that it could be anyone from John's family. So his mother, his niece, his nephew, himself. That is 4 people. So no, the hair was not definitively matched. Had you sat down and listened to the goddamn first trial like I had to when we talked about 100 years of snow and Lolly, taking his damn time trying to figure out a thought that didn't start with what if any. Yes, I sat there, I listened, and I have effing notes, and it was not definitively marked to John. Mitochondrial DNA is different than nuclear DNA. Look it up.
at some point,
what
you have to recognize.
what you stated is wrong. If the defense is lying to the court, you saw what Bev said with that payment to the ARCA guys 3 weeks after. It's going to be interesting. I hope you will, of course, agree that she has to admonish Brennan Monday over the lies about the Sallyport camera that we learned from the audit hadn't been changed.
I'm not aware of any lies by Hank Brennan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you not watching the same trial I am? Because I think that there was some shenanigans. Again, let's take his stance, let's steelman it. So Karen definitely ran him over. The cops did a deplorable investigation for one of their fellow officers. If you want to get all hot and pissed off on John's behalf, then you should have, been screaming to the hills about how lackluster, how half-assed. They did 10% of a half-assed job. They used red Solo fucking cups, okay? So if you really want to get mad on John's behalf, maybe you should get mad at the entire Canton Police Department and all the people who did the investigation, from Trooper Proctor, who decided to denigrate Karen Reed and really jeopardize this case. Again, there are so many villains, if you want to have, justice for John, that have been there from bureaucracy. If you want to get upset, the prosecution should have done a great enough job and had a good enough case that Karen was already in jail. If you want to get mad. Red Solo Cup. That's what Red Solo Cup. I fill you up. That's how we crime scene in Canton. Will you find a sober cup? Probably not, but they have red Solo cups.
And first of all,
Hank Brennan said that the camera was changed. That's why they called in. That's in the motion to dismiss. It came up yesterday during the audit, and again, Brennan has multiple times made misstatements he had to correct the record of.
And thank you, Squad Bob, for gifting one membership as I'm throwing things all over my desk. On an aside, you guys, oh my Bob Ross. I found a lifty chair that I'm getting. Mr. Mo said I couldn't bring it home today because, well, it wouldn't fit in my garage and my room isn't ready. But I found my chair. It has heat. It lays back. It stands you up. I might marry it. Multiple marriages. Thank you so much. They're going in the curse jar. And I am just going to keep this here because I doubt I'll be able to roll again. So this is the curse jar. Everyone gets a tag, and you guys are doing awesome. This is just from the first of the year, so this is just great. And thank you guys all for your support. And sorry, I'm in a cursey mood. This man is bothering the ever-living hell out of me. Again, his attitude is one of condescension. He did not come to this interview in good faith. He started off basically wanting to destroy Baker. And if you come into something with that sort of agenda, then it's going to show. And it obviously does show. You didn't give Baker the respect of being a cognitively functional human being. You came here to lecture him about how stupid he is. And no one takes those lectures. Have you ever heard of the compliment sandwich, sir? Maybe a PIP plan, if you will. Have you talked to HR ever in your life about, interpersonal communications? Because I can tell you the best way to entrench someone in their current belief is to denigrate it, is to make fun of it. Because if you're like me, I will hold on to stuff just for spite.
So, but
okay,
I understand that you believe.
Baker, I have to insist on just one distinction in language, since you are someone that reviews books. One of the things that people commonly confuse on the Free Karen Reed side, including Nick Rocco, is the difference between a lie and a mistake. All right. So, for instance, Hank.
Okay, so the police just made a mistake, and the prosecution just made a mistake by, switching the scene or the camera in the police station. They just made a mistake when Proctor, called her a leaky balloon knot. They just made a mistake when, half of the people seemed to really be a little bit off on stuff. Thank you, Kathy Michelle, very much. So here's my problem. Again, if you cannot have specifics, if you have all of these lies that the defense has told, it would behoove you to have an itemized list that you can easily and readily name off. And therefore you can, calmly address facts. You are throwing things out without dates. Baker, again, and sir, I've read your book. There's a passage from, our Lord and Savior, George Carlin, who, gets a little upset because we all agreed on the English language, so let's use it the way we intended.
Brennan mistakenly said that the emails between ARCA and the defense were given to them by the feds. But 10 minutes later in court, he corrected that mistake. So it's not a lie.
Incorrect. Bev
15 minutes
blew
later,
up.
I mean,
Bev blew up, went to her chambers, came back, yelled at the defense. That's when he changed his statements. Again, we are only fact-based. But let's not start yelling so early.
Where do you base that? Where do you base that on? Where do you get that from?
I watched.
That's not in evidence.
I watched the court. I watched the court proceeding. He stated
there was
that
a camera
the
in the
feds.
judge's chambers.
No, that's not what I said.
When you go into any situation with your ears closed, you're not going to gather information. Now, I understand that you probably watched the trial, but the clown music in your head and the clanging monkey, toot, 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 celebrating you that you are completely correct, your self-congratulation is drowning out new information. And, again, humility is a thing. Look, I am a spastastic person, that a twice college dropout, with 6 kids, a husband. I do have a husband, just, to throw that out there. And I don't know everything, but I rightly and fully admit that, because, with a humble spirit, you can actually learn things. And I intend to learn things. Now, my perspective will change all through my life. And the way you change someone's perspective is by giving them facts, letting them learn on their own, and then not acting like a giant asshole. Okay?
He claimed that he had gotten.
How do you know what happened in Bev's chambers? I mean,
what are we going to do about
this is the
it?
problem with this case is people just imagine.
Kevin, I was really trying not to, because I was actually planning of having a little clip whenever you made one of your little strawmans, because you're an not honest debater. I never said he.
He's a debater. He's a dishonest debater. That sounds dirty. That sounds like a wrestling move. The dishonest debater, kind of like a rear naked chokehold, which I know it's not naked, but I think it should be. Also, I couldn't. And thank you so much, Tammy Fayette, for gifting 1 membership. And that went to John Barton. And welcome to the Church of Mo. We have dark chocolate sarcasm, and we ask kindly that you keep your audio assault weapons at home. That would be those plastic recorders that they give to 3rd graders, because my son's teacher gave him one. And yeah, wonderful. Anywho, that's all we disallow in the Church of Mo. We have 3 commandments. The first most commandment is that your shit currently does not allow you to be a shitty person. So be a good person no matter what shit you're going through. It's basically, it can be boiled down in George Carlin fashion to don't be a dick. And then our second commandment is don't have recorders. Our third is patchouli oil is not deodorant. Use it lightly. That is all. So thank you so much, and welcome to the Church of Mo. Let me get those tickets written.
Went into her chambers.
You just lied. You just said that.
Sorry, Plevin, I have to cut you off when you lie. I said he stated she went to her chambers, came back, and he changed his statement. That's what I said. Okay, you don't have to talk over me.
Go replay it back. You said he was admonished in the chambers, and there's no proof of that.
No, I never said that. That's a straw man, Kevin.
All righty. We are going to go back and we are going to put on the closed captions so we can investigate. Now, oh no, what the hell did I do? Like I said, I'm not good at this stuff. I never said I was, but I also am humble enough to admit that I don't understand people's problems with admitting they're wrong, or they could be wrong. Again, it is not a sign of weakness to say, hey, that's not a. All right, that's going to work because you can see it. Okay, we are going to go back because Plevin has claimed that they
you don't have to talk over. Sorry, he went into, I was actually planning of having a little clip whenever he claimed that he had gotten.
How do you know what happened in Bev's chambers? I mean, this is the problem with this case, is people just imagine.
Kevin,
Okay, so he didn't even get out admonished. So if we baconate, and we are going to baconate some more because I know I'm going to have. Okay, Yellow Cottage Tales, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I know you are probably going to dog me to hell, and that is quite all right. Look, sweetheart, I went to middle school with a headgear on, and I grew double D boobs over the summer. So honestly, there is nothing you can do to my soul that middle school girls haven't already assassinated, okay? So go ahead, call me a moron, tell me I have too many kids, and, say I don't have an education. We'll get those out the way. I am slightly, disabled too, if you want to throw that out there. Okay. So how about then you worry about my arguments. You actually address what I've actually said. So throw out all the stuff that I know you're already going to say. But if you would like to interview me, I would have a conversation with you. The problem is that you don't enter things with an open mind. You don't enter with a spirit of humility, because I'm going to tell you, sweetheart, I'm going to tell you, you don't know everything. And this attitude, this arrogance, while it might get you some supporters over on the side that agrees with you, you're not going to get supporters from the middle, because no one likes to be lectured to. No one likes to be talked down to. No one. And every single, and I'm going to tell you like I tell my kids, every single person, from the janitor to the CEO to the person on the street sitting on the corner because they don't have a house, deserves respect. And if you can't do that basic thing that we teach kindergartners, then maybe you need to go back and, you might have like factoids and stuff, but maybe you need to work on that. Because if you actually want to pitch this, if you actually want to get people on your side, this is not the way to do it. You are acting and behaving like an ass. The least you could have done was let Baker finish his damn sentence. Okay, we're going to go back and look, you guys. I see no admonished. Book reviews, one of the things that confuse the free Karen Reed side, including Nick Rocco, is the difference between a lie and a mistake, all right? Said the emails between Arca and the defense were from the feds, but 10 minutes later, in court, he corrected that. Incorrect, so this is Baker, so we're going to look for the word admonish. Bev blew up. Chambers came back and yelled at the defense. That's, again, we're only fact-based, but let's not base that. Where do you base that on? Where do you get that? I watched the court proceeding. He stated that in Judge Chambers that's claimed he got into. So never did he say admonished. Receipts. Unless you're going to say the closed captions are on us morons' side. All right, but I choose not to wait.
We sent you those emails, and I think that's what happened, and then he corrected it. But you're making it, you just said he got admonished in the chambers.
No, I didn't say that.
All righty, banners up. Oh, not that, sorry, I'm trying to... Okay, so he has got one nope already. So one nope. We have officially, at least taken away one thing that he's claimed about Baker. One nope now.
This is classic free Karen Reed. Just make something up.
Kevin,
it's unbelievable.
If you don't want to be here.
Okay, so here's the thing. Again, think about this. No, let's rewind. I want you guys to think about this as a business person, as a writer. This is your first book, and it's a Kindle edition on Kindle Unlimited. It's an audio book, but oh my God. You're a business person. You want to sell books. Do you make an ass out of yourself going on when someone has invited you, even if they are not on your same side? Do you go on to promote your book like this? Because I know you are in corporate America, and I can guarantee that they would not accept a pitch like this. You wouldn't go up to a CEO or a marketing team and pitch something like this. Well, I understand you mentally subnormal mutants don't believe that that Karen Reed done it, but you idiots should buy my book because you're stupid. I hope you can understand writing. I do have an audiobook if you can't read. Yeah, I don't know. Again, who is also going to pay $25 for a hard copy of this? Again, when you come out and you advertise yourself as a dick who doesn't let people speak, again, Baker could be absolutely wrong, but the way that you interact and you communicate is you let him finish and you then respond.
Here, because you can't.
Stop making shit up. That's it. It's that simple. Just stick to facts if you can do it.
I just did, but
Oh,
if you don't,
fuck you sideways with a cactus, you asshole. Hell no, no one tells Baker that he's lying. Again, Baker isn't like that. Look, again, there are some YouTubers that maybe speculate and don't tell people when they speculate. But as we just showed, you have already gotten mad when facts not in evidence. He didn't say admonish you, fucktard. So how about you get, okay, here's the problem, sir, and I have diagnosed it. Gabby, I do have a t-shirt on the way that says screw you sideways with a cactus. I did get a prototype, so whenever it appears, I am going to be wearing it. It's right on racular level, so. Sir, I have diagnosed you with a terminal case, and I'm afraid you're going to have to do the Lemmy Wings climb. There is not going to be enough shoulder leverage to pull your ass out of your head out of your ass. Although it might be your ass out of your ass. You have terminal cranial rectitis, so your head is going to have to pull a Lemmy Wings and go all the way up again. You are too far gone.
have any reason to be here because you just want to yell, I can do the review of your book. I told you beforehand. I know you want to antagonize because you want to go on Twitter after and say he's an idiot. You've been calling me. Stop. I'll mute you every time you just start yelling over us. Be a grown-up man. You're 58 years old. You are at 31 years older than me. You should be.
Petty respects petty when petty is delivered in a great moment. And that was act like a grown-ass man, you adult toddler. Again, this was not supposed to be a blood sport. This was supposed to be a review of your book. I cannot believe you took the free advertising to sell your fucking book that has more run-on sentences, confusion, and I don't know if you put it through legal, but did you put it through someone who can read? Because the run-on sentences, the jump through the entire, you don't have, your paragraph is supposed to have a thesis. Do you remember when we went to learn paragraphs and you had to have an introduction, a couple sentences about what it's about, and then a conclusion? That's how people understand and take in facts. You squirrel all over the place, which is what I do, but I'm not writing a book. Okay, so again, you come at things with a bad attitude, with a lack of humility, and you are always going to be huffing your own farts to the point of asphyxia. I do not get it. I do not get the lack of humility. I do not get when you are invited somewhere acting like an asshole. I'm glad that Jesus loves you, but everyone else thinks you're a twat waffle, sir.
Be able to debate someone like me. It's not that hard.
You
I was
interrupted
just
me
about
first.
to
I just
talk
wanna
about
point it
your
out.
book.
Go ahead.
I'm giving you an audience to talk.
How about you pull your head out of your sphincter, sir? Because it's annoying me. And I don't like to be annoyed.
Talk about your book. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the cover. Is there a reason why it's not really Karen Reed related? Because that's a selling point. The first thing you see, the courtroom, the papers, it's a choice. I probably would have had I envisioned, because I'm writing my own book on it, a car driving off with a black blob at the side of the road. This one, I don't feel like it kind of gives you the idea what the case is about. So is that the reasoning behind it?
The publisher chose the cover. The publisher chose the title. I had nothing to do with it. The cover, I made covers and suggested them for them, which were different. And the title that I wanted to go was Into the Storm, the Karen Reed trial.
Mine is
Into the Storm. How about Was There Fucking Snow? House Long to Die in Cold. why did Mr. Higgins, take his SIM card to the Air Force base? How about, there's a lot of things that you could call it, but Into the Storm, the Karen Reed case. Oh my God. Not to mention that, but this is your book, this is your baby. And, in theory, you spent a lot of time researching and studying this, and yet you gave control of your cover to someone else. It doesn't make sense. Again, if this is your book, if you are here to promote it, your attitude stinks. And I'm not a marketingologist. I'm just telling you, as a person who has a Kindle membership, it doesn't, make me want to go read your book for anything other than self-torture because my inner Catholic is coming out. And I thought I had gotten all the masochism out, but apparently I'm a Rosicrucian, so who knew?
The triangle, which is funny that I call mine Into the Triangle.
Why
again,
the triangle?
Because I call it the Canton Triangle, because there's no sense, no science, no justice.
So this is like the Bermuda Triangle, or
Yeah, it's a play on the Bermuda.
Yes, that would be what it's like. I'm glad you caught up on context clues, sweetie. I was a little worried, but I'm glad that Banjo Boy learned how to read. I am proud of you, sir. I didn't know that Banjo Boy learned how to read, but I'm glad you got out of the town in Deliverance and made your way to Joint Up Riding. I'm so proud of you. Yay! Banjo Boy. He made it, guys. Just like Bat Boy from, the National Enquiry or Inquiry.
Triangle has 3 points. What are the other 3 points in your triangle?
I said no sense, no science, no justice.
The other 3 points, there are only 3 points in a triangle, sir. So unless it's the Star of David, there would only be 3 points. I understand that English is hard, but it is the language that we all agreed on. So if you could just, I don't know, take a minute to use it correctly. Again, the ghost of George Carlin is rolling in his grave.
All right.
But
Okay,
ding, ding,
I
ding,
thought
ding,
you meant it was
ding,
based
ding.
on the location of Canton. Okay.
Oh,
No, I did.
Also, Yellow Cottage Tales. Yes, I do have a hillbilly day pass. I am an Appalachian American. I do have a little bit of an accent. So please feel free to disregard my entire intellectual integrity due to my accent that I make up and play, because I also can go into very, very calm and relaxed, sort of easy, even tone Midwestern that would go on any news conference or anything. So, when you try to pigeonhole someone, when you debase the other side to a strawman, to a single dimension, you are absolutely handicapping yourself.
Didn't
No,
choose.
I don't.
No,
I don't know
No.
what Canton is. It's in America. That's all I know. But
He is Yellow Cottage Tales, and I didn't tag him. I will tag him after. Last night was not a great night. And honest to goodness, I can take criticism. I can take people, acting and calling me out my name and all that, but not today. Hagatha the Leg is, not so great. And the artist formerly known as the Good Leg, well, he is off on vacation too. So, I will say he did not come into this with any agenda other than to call us morons. And that is myopic and short-sighted, especially when you're trying to sell a book. Your complete delusion that you have everything right has made you blind. Would you go into corporate America and act like this? Would you pitch anything in a boardroom and act like this? Now, I understand this is YouTube and it's a different thing, but the general concept of extending respect to someone, to listening to them, that's here. Now, if you are just intellectually dishonest and want to just shout your, slogans, give red meat to your fans, that is incredibly short-sighted and absolutely ridiculous. Again, if you want to move out of your circle and get an influence to other people, you don't attract people by calling them abject morons and possibly insinuating that they are the product of first cousin marriage.
no, I made it during the first trial because I felt that every time there was anything related to science, Lally would always make up. So I made this: no justice, no sense, no science. So this is my book cover for my book. So just to those friendly people who have said I'm an idiot because I haven't wrote a book, I actually this is my second book I'm working on. So that's how it is.
Okay.
But yes, that's actually one of the questions. How many interviews have you conducted with the people you describe in the book?
I wouldn't know how to put a number on that, but one of the problems that we're running into here.
No, again, see, if you want to conduct this like a real forensic, investigation, you need to have dates, you need to have answers. You need to have the ability to bring up those facts and answers to persuade someone to your side. You can't say, I don't want to get into that. It was innumerable. Again, you don't even have to have all of the dates, but you can have a little sticky pad with the number of times there. Again, you are just bringing out, well, I did it. You aren't having receipts. And again, if you want to prove yourself right, if you want to, wake us up from the darkness of our moronacy, you need to have facts. You need to have logic. You need to have a persuasive argument. And just like Hillary Clinton learned, you don't call half the country a bunch of deplorable morons. That's not how you sell things. I mean, I hate to, learn lessons from Hillary Kinkles Clinton, who dresses like Kim Jong-un, but gosh darn it, don't be a dick. How about that? I mean, I know it's hard. I know you seem to have a very big issue with it because your dickitude is like Lilo and Stitch. It's up to the top there. I don't want you to scroll, damn you. No. Save. There you go. One nope. So, Baker, you will be fully, wrapped in the comforting knowledge that you never said admonished because we looked back on the closed caption. Oh my God, this man is this. We're only 11 minutes in. Holy fuck.
As I have talked to a lot of witnesses, for example, I'll reveal this here.
Only feats, only fans, only stumps. Baker, you look like you're trying to keep your brain from exploding.
I have had lunch with Brian Higgins, talked to him fairly regularly, and at one point got a butt dial for Brian Higgins. But I treat everybody objectively. You try to get to the story and try to find out what happened and then match it to the evidence. A problem with many, not only witnesses, but also with just people in Canton that know the witnesses and know the story and want to talk about it, is everybody, and we're not going to go deeply into this because I know you don't want to, but everybody, it's a fact, they're terrified of this mob. Because anybody that disagrees with this mob, and this is where I started from in this, is going to be attacked even just for asking questions.
I'm sorry, but I've seen a fair bit of attack on each side. To put the blame solely on one side is intellectually dishonest. Again, as a person who has not religiously followed the Karen Reed case, I did watch the first trial with Baker. I've tried to keep up with it. I am fully acknowledging that I don't know the intricacies because, gosh darn it, this case has more lore than Dune. That being said, Baron Harkonnen, anyone? That being said, just ick. Again, to solely put the badness, is not intellectually honest. To go into anything and assuming that your opponent doesn't have a functioning brain cell to rub together to make a little bit of a spark of a neuron is just ridiculous. And you are welcome, Slinky. Thank you so much for being a member for so long. And you are now an official deacon of the Church of Mo. Go spread it. Go spread the news of dark chocolate, sarcasm, and true crime. Ooh, I have my own triangle. Sarcasm, dark chocolate, and true crime. The triangle coming up from Mo.
So in the summer of 2023, after reading Turtle Boy's article, I began looking into this case. Now, at the time, I didn't know how to get documents, didn't have any documents. And you like to highlight on your Twitter the fact that I said, hey, listen, I was ignorant about all of this stuff, forensic data, autopsies.
Oh, daggone it.
No, I never said that on my Twitter. I just say you're a fool because you read it
Okay.
in the total opposite way of many a time.
You're interrupting me, but I let
yeah,
you
because
go,
you kind of claimed that I said something, but
right.
Go on. You didn't know how to do a FOIA and you didn't know how to do it. So then you ran into.
And that is perfectly okay. I don't know what, again, we get so entrenched in our ideas and the comfort that there is that we have all the answers. There is deep comfort in the sort of thought that you know everything. And I get that. It gets you a feeling of superiority. You know something that the rest of the people don't know. You are that bit smarter than everyone. You have figured it out. You are in charge. That is, again, not the way you get people to like you. And thank you so much, Kathy Michelle, for gifting 10 memberships. And those went to Gabby, Beth Menzel, Shannon Seven, Brett, Trish, Zach, or Jack's mom, Debbie Minton, Drexy, Alan Schroeder, Douglas Bentley, John Stuber. And thank you guys so much. Thank you, Kathy Michelle, and welcome to the Church of Mo. We have our dark triangle of dark chocolate, sarcasm, and true crime. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me get those tags going while I listen to this man bloviate.
The mob.
Do you want to answer the questions for me, or do you want me to answer the question?
If you just stop making all these strawmen.
Wait a minute. So, you know what's interesting to me is it's always the asshole that interrupts you that get really, really upset when you interrupt them back. And then they're like, you have interrupted me. I'll let you talk, when they actually didn't. In fact, if we go back, and I don't feel like it because I'm pretty sure I would get a brain tumor if I did of stupid, you can tell that he started interrupting right the second he walked in. So again, this, I am trying to answer okay, Ross Pro, can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish? Okay, Ross, stop. It was funny on SNL. It's not funny for you.
It's a really bad
I'm not making
tactics.
any straw man. You highlighted.
You said that I on Twitter claimed that's a straw man. Move on.
You highlighted that and put it on your Twitter. All right. But anyways, and you said this is the one thing Kevin is told that is truthful.
Yeah, that's when you called yourself a fool.
That's not what I call myself.
Baker, did we just become bester friends? Oh my goodness, that was petty respects petty, and that was timed chef's kiss. And you can kind of see where it hurt his soul.
Dude, you're not very good at this, are you? I don't know what to tell you. You're not. I'm going to.
I am apparently.
Why is the man who cannot do a debate trying to teach the man who is trying to calmly talk to him anything? Why is it always the Dunning-Kruger effect? It is these people that are medium smart, that think they're super smart, that want to talk down to people who maybe don't show that they're actually pretty intelligent most of the time. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm confused. I am a woman. But, you're an asshole. I just lost my train of thought. It will be back in just 2 seconds. Let me get these tags done.
You don't want me to. You don't. I don't know if you're trash or not. I can tell you're not good at conducting interviews because you could have an opportunity to ask me questions and get information out of me, but you don't want to ever let me answer the question. Now, I tried.
He has let you answer the question. You don't give specific answers. You say, well, I interviewed a lot of people, but the mob did it. Again, if your entire book is going to be absent of any facts because you are afraid of a mob, then what do you have?
To honestly portray this. I don't have the quote in front of me, but obviously you took my quote where I said I started out this case.
Again, if this was something that has been bothering you, you should have that quote up there. You should be able to show Baker, present it on screen. If you are going to do this, if this is something that has been bothering you, have receipts. You should be able to verbatim pull it up and show him and say, this is where you called me a fool. Again, all you need is a simple screenshot. But you didn't even have that prepared. Again, if this was something we're coming into this as a blood sport, Because let's be very honest here. You didn't come here to promote your book. Because if you came here to promote your book, then you came with an attitude that wasn't going to sell any books. And any publicist would tell you that, yes, you can go to, an opposing side, but what you don't do is act like a giant fucking asshole. Again, you are never going to sell anything, get anyone on your side with your attitude. You might get a few that like your brash sort of take on things. But if you are not honest and humble enough to admit that there are things that you could change, Broken Baker and I have never, we watched the Karen retrial. So I'm going to take a little tangent, if you will. And thank you, Sarah Adams. Just got here, but I know Kevin is a dick. Baker and I, we watched this. Now, I came in about a week later. I was very confused. I had to catch up quite quickly on who people were, why we were talking about cell phones ad nauseum, why we were talking for about a week and a half about snow, no snow, and who was at a party, and we hadn't even got to where this man died. But I watched all of that. And I can tell you that the state did not meet its burden of proof. And there were a lot of things that were quite fishy. The interpolation, or whatever you call it, the reversing of the car was incredibly deceitful. And there are a lot of other things. That's the one that stuck out to me. And I'm not going to belabor the hair because I've already explained mitochondrial DNA to you. I do not think that there is a Schoolhouse Rock on mitochondrial DNA, but I do think that Miss Frizzle and the Magic School Bus did talk about DNA in one of their episodes. So I would go check that out, okay? Again, see, that's what I was doing when I was talking down to you. I've already given you about a good, hour of actual intellectually honest, suggestions if you're willing to take them, which you're not because your head is fully engaged in your sphincter. That being said, now I'm going full petty. So I have given you an hour of my life where I have attempted to make you see the light of day in Jesus in a somewhat medium way. Now the full petty train is on board. Let me get these tags going. He just bothers me with the tone of his voice, and yeah.
Ignorant about many of the relevant things. I'm not from law enforcement. I'm not a forensic data analyst. I've never done an autopsy. I don't know how the police store evidence and things like that. Those are things that I had to learn, and I have learned them through working hard. But during the course of 2023, I was asking questions. Now, I started out covering this case leading towards the conspiracy because I accepted what was given to me in that Turtle Boy article, as a lot of it seemed to be the kind of thing that couldn't be disputed, such as the 227 search for how long to die in the cold. I ignorantly thought data was just data. I didn't know that the state was going to dispute that and had their own experts. So at the time, I was like, maybe something really happened here. But I was always asking logical questions about whether a conspiracy theory that posits where the killers are going to put someone still alive on their own lawn to die in the cold. Now, as I continued to ask harder and harder questions during the course of that summer, the crowd started to turn on me because that crowd does not tolerate questions. And so this is a phenomena. I've talked to many lawyers and many, many people that won't put their name out in public or won't get in.
The very ironic and sad thing is the absolute intellectual closing of yourself to new ideas, the projection he is putting on the other side. So this man has actively displayed intolerance to any sort of change in his perspective. And yet he is assigning and moving that to the other side. Now, granted, I get it. Look, this case has polarized people in a way that I thought that it would be a Kyle Rittenhouse case. That being said, again, you are trying to get people, anyone on YouTube is trying to be pleasant, is trying to make their point. I guess I would have to ask him, what was your purpose going on Baker's channel? Because it doesn't seem to be promoting your book. Because Baker was trying to ask you, and keep the conversation on your book. This could have been a big opportunity to get, a different audience looking at your book. Even if they read it to, kind of deride it, maybe they would get information that would change their mind. Again, you put this book out there, you want people to buy it, but you're not advertising it in a way that anyone would do. You're not, taking time, acknowledging that there might be some things that the other side gets right. Again, in no conversation is one person 100% right and the other one is wrong. And if you are going to follow trials, you must understand that everything is in shades of gray. If you want to get into trials, you should be able to argue both sides. You should try to look at the fact patterns and see if you could argue both sides. That is what lawyers do all day. So if you want to get into trials, you need to be very, very mentally elastic. You need to be able to, look at things from different perspectives, logic it out. Because life is gray. And again, what is the difference between a conspiracy and something that we haven't seen all the evidence in? Again, there has been a lot of stuff that hasn't been released to the public. There are a lot of things that don't quite make sense. And again, if you want to be rightfully pissed off about the lack of justice for John Reed, then maybe be pissed off at the cops who did such a lackluster job that they used red Solo cups to pick up the man's blood. That they used lawn blowers and they didn't even take pictures in a good way so they could document everything so they could put Karen Reed away for life. If you believe that Karen Reed is fucking guilty, like all the guilty, then you should be pissed the fuck off at the cops because they did such a shitty job. Turtle Boy has nothing the fuck to do with this case. He is an outside. If you really wanted to focus on the case and justice for John, then the cops did such a piss poor job for one of their fellow brothers. And why was that? If you want to really investigate something, investigate why the fuck the, investigation was so cronk. If you want to, hey, how about you ask the state, since you're such a good state person, why the fuck we had 3 experts to explain a cell phone that still sounds like Chinese? Because none of them made it fucking make sense. You know what a good expert is? Do you want to know what really separates very intelligent people from smart people? The ability to communicate their ideas to others in a simple and concise way. Now, I read your book and you add a lot of fun words and all that, and you sound like you know a great vocabulary. It is infinitely harder to put your idea in a way that is simple and easy to digest. But that is how you get points across. You don't have to be bombastic. You don't have to talk down to people. You simply meet them at their level and you don't hold your education, your thoughts above them. Just because I have a big vocabulary doesn't mean I look down on people. Just because I'm a little smart, medium smart, like Megan Fox, doesn't mean I look down on people. The only people I look down on are the people that use their bra as wallets, okay? And that's because they're making the rest of us hillbillies look bad.
Involved in this case because they're terrified of this mob. And it's not because they're pussies, because most of them have family members that they're afraid will be doxxed or they'll go dirt digging. That's been a huge part of the phenomena. I'm not saying you do that. I don't know anything about you, but that is a huge part.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we got the classic, when did you stop laying hands on your wife? Now, again, if you follow and understand how statements go, while he didn't implicitly group Baker into the group that, does the mob-like action, he let it linger there just long enough to plant that idea. Again, he knows what he's doing. He didn't, he passively linked Baker to a mob. Okay, can you go up anymore? No.
Part of the phenomena of what has gone on in this case. Now, what I was saying in that statement there is that I am ignorant of all those things. and I've had to go into learning how they work. And I've done a lot of
And that is my question. Here's my other question. What resources did you learn to, or use to educate yourself? Were you educated, by hearsay? Did you pick up books? Did you consult a lawyer? I know you don't want to talk about that because he pled the fifth. But where did you learn your, legal information? Because if you are taught by someone who doesn't know the facts or someone who has shaded things to fit your perspective, what you really should have done, if you wanted to be well-rounded and fully balanced, if you weren't afraid to have someone challenge your idea. Again, all of this is fear that your idea is going to be challenged. And we should be great with our ideas being challenged. It makes us look at different perspectives. It makes us question ourselves. It makes us grow and learn. To cling so tightly that you won't even listen to another person's perspective indicates to me, and I'm not a psychologist or a doctorologist or even a phrenologist, though I do believe in criminal head shape for some reason. You're just ick. You make me want to just, ugh. But where you learned your, legal stuff does matter. I don't purport or present myself out as someone who understands legal things. When someone asks me things on the stream that I do know, I will tell them. But I am humble enough to say, you know what, I'm going to have to ask one of my lawyer friends because that is beyond my knowledge. Or I can look it up on Google, but, I'm not a lawyer. This is, lawyer Google. And I'm not a big channel, but I think people resonate with humility. Baker and I always show humility. We're always, ready to learn, ready to see different perspectives. And Baker is growing because of that, because he's willing to listen and he's authentic. And that shows. No one wants to go to a place where someone is, condescending, rude, doesn't let you talk. And yes, I have receipts if we want to go back to the beginning, because you immediately cut Baker off. And I will clip it if you need it, because he also didn't say admonished. And we're going to have to change that nope to 2, because he did not cut you off first.
the job doing that. Now, the people in the freak Aaron Reed side, probably you, but I don't know. I'm not going to straw man you. You hear something put out by the defense, and instead of looking in to find how it actually works, you go, aha, and then you run off and you get your 20,000 subscribers.
Baker works harder than any other streamer I've ever met. In fact, every time I want to improve my channel, I think, gosh, what would Baker do? And I try to do that. Baker researches. Baker doesn't speculate. Yeah, there are a lot of lay tubers, law tubers, true crimers who do kind of go on speculation station, and they should absolutely tell their audience when they are speculating. I do that because I feel like, it's my job to, if I am, going to be covering these trials, not to give you guys lies. I always tell you when I'm speculating, so does Baker. But we actually look at the court documents. We have lawyers that we talk to that explain things that we don't know. We don't go out there and say, I didn't read it, but let's make up something about Karen Reed. Now, honestly, the Karen Reed case is full of flippin' flapjack drama to me, and I'm glad to be second chair, but I'm not stepping into that. That is just, nope. But sir, let me explain something to you. Life is long. Life is hard. Don't be a dick your entire life.
Well, I'm only about to reach 15,000, so, but still, this is your actual quote that I highlighted, that you are not.
Slow clap. Baker done brought in the recipients. Oh, Baker, I love you. Oh, did you see his soul die just a little bit when he's like, I have receipts? And he's like, do what now? He's like, I thought it was, taken off the internet.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Well, Looks like not bringing receipts didn't pay off.
Smart that you are strong for knowing that, and that you can't fix a car, not what you just claimed. So again, Strawman 2.
I'm not quoting it. Do you think I'm going to quote it?
You just
word by word.
You just
I'm
said
going
that
on
I
memory.
posted up.
No, but when you accuse someone, and again, if you want to start watching trials, law is all about the art of language. It boils down to the art of language. A simple and or can change the entire, or the entire idea of a statement, a clause, a quote. That is how important language is in law. Bringing receipts, bringing things verbatim, because that is how lawyers look at things. Law is all about the use of language to argue your side. A comma can change everything. That is one of the things I really had to learn when I started reading legal documents, how important the placement, the grammar is. Reading every statement, what it means, admitting when I don't know something. And again, he reminds me of, and I don't know if you know it, but the women, and they're always the bitchiest, cuntiest women, always the biggest cunt cannoli, and everything on their Instagram is like, I am an empath and I admit my weaknesses, but my strengths are beautiful. I'm manifesting. He sounds like a mean girl from high school who puts Instagram, quotes up on his little thing, but he's the cuntiest person you ever met. I mean, I don't know you from Adam, sir, so maybe it's just me, but good Lord. Look, this is getting demonetized. Even the little man in India is going to be like, oh, good Lord, she said the C word.
But back to the book. Back to what I was actually asking about. You claim you interviewed people. You have a lot of internal monologue. Is this from people or is this made up?
You're going to have to point to something specific. Otherwise, you're going to say
the story about Higgins and his why he chose to become a DEA agent, as one example.
I talked to Brian Higgins.
And he
Yes, but you can talk to Brian Higgins, but you then can't do internal monologue. You can say he stated this, but you cannot give a present sense, contemporaneous, inner monologue, because you don't know that. That is fiction. Regardless of what he told you, you can give what he felt, what he did, but the internal monologue does take it into somewhat fiction because you are making this up. You are basing it around facts. So it could be factualized fiction, but because you go into an internal monologue where you add feelings, thoughts, and other things, because most people's internal monologue is deeply layered and, connected to both their childhood, their growing up, how they see things, their perspective. And there is no way that you did enough interviewing that you could actually get into the psyche of Brian. I don't know why you would want to, but again, you look at biographers. I mean, autobiographers do that because they're talking about the person. You are writing a somewhat factual book. You shouldn't be going into internal monologue unless you're going into Anne Rule territory. Now, if you're going into Anne Rule territory, then she did extensive, in-depth, writing, interviewing. She talked to everyone. And I am sure that she had binders full of things that she could go and say, hey, I did this. She probably dictated them. Did you record the interviews? All of these things. Again, if I were to interview, let's see, Gregory Benway, this is Yellow Cottage Tales. And he is on the opposing side of the Karen Reed case. Now, Baker was trying to talk to him about his book, but this man did not come to listen. He did not come to engage in anything other than, well, it looks like a dick measuring contest. But, I mean, I don't know. Again, you get more flies with honey than vinegar. Sometimes the idioms that we use are full of deep wisdom.
He said that while he was writing convoy security, that's where he fell in love with planning.
Well, so Brian comes from a fourth generation line of firefighters in Cambridge. And
Yeah, I have read that part. But that's not what I asked. Again, I asked you because you claimed that he became a DEA agent.
If you're going to keep interrupting me, I'm just going to have to go because you interrupted me 13 seconds into the answer. I mean, this is just ridiculous.
Then answer my question.
No, and again, this is how law works. You were asked a direct question. Now, this isn't, considered a testimony or anything, but you weren't answering the question. He wanted to understand how you got all of the information that would lead you to, be able to understand his internal monologue. Again, internal monologue means you understand his motivations, his personality, his emotions, how he reacts to everything. Internal monologue is something that you have to deeply research because it is multi-layered and multivariant. It's going to, change from person to person. So if you are going for more of an Anne Rule book, I can understand. But if you are going into the case, then I don't quite understand the internal monologue. Now, I'm sure you're going to, rip me a new one and tell me I don't understand literature or nothing. And again, I do fully confess that I am a twice college dropout. But I do seem to understand some things. And thank you so much, Raiders from Coop and Georgie. Welcome, welcome. And thank you guys so much for joining. If you go into a, interview or anything with your mind closed and your ears closed, you will get nothing productive out of it. This was an exercise and a waste of your time, sir, because you came here and you didn't want to do anything but engage in some sort of pissing contest.
Answering the question. If you're not going to let me answer the question, I'm just going to go because you're just a waste of everybody's time.
Oh, please make my day.
I'm sure it's perfect for a dumb audience, but I don't.
Oh, fuck you, right? Oh, hell no. Okay, sir, I don't want to have to belabor the point, but if you are trying to sell a book and you call half of the other side, half of the audience dumb, you want to talk about respect? You want to talk about Baker not cutting you off? How about having respect for audience? How about, extending human dignity to other people that don't agree with you? Do you want to live in a world with a bunch of assholes like you who don't listen? I'm personally glad that most people are like me and Baker and we're humble and we realize we don't know everything. Just because I have a microphone in front of my face doesn't make me any different from any other fucking person in the world. And to insult someone's intelligence means that you are deeply scared that someone's going to insult yours. Going on the attack, calling people stupid, means that you don't have an argument. When you have facts, you bang the facts. When you don't have facts, you bang the table. And when you don't have any idea how to fucking argue, you call people stupid.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm trying to answer to you the question to what Brian Higgins did. And if you're going to interrupt me again, I'm just going to leave because it's not
Please,
worth my
God,
health.
do.
Brian Higgins had reached lieutenant of the fire department, but feeling a sense of patriotic duty as the Iraq war was heating up, he decided to enlist. He had been in the Army Reserves in the 90s. So he did have the military training, and he decided to enlist.
And again, you can write that full of very colorful things. You can tell his story, but what you cannot do is get inside his head. Unless you have had specific questions as to how you were feeling right then, what was going through your mind, and you have it absolutely recorded so that, it can't change. Again, one of the things I have noticed as an outsider, not obsessed with this case, is that things are changing all the time in this, in this case. People's story, what happened, where things are, who knew each other, who didn't know each other. We aren't friends, we're friends. House long to die in cold. My butt dialed a phone. I was, screwing my wife. I couldn't answer it. People who notice facts differently than you aren't stupid. Every single person has a different lens through which they see something. And sir, just because someone sees something differently than you doesn't mean that they are stupid. It means that they use their internal logic. Everyone has internal logic to disregard, denigrate, and basically, just throw away everyone else's ideas is absolutely and totally cowardly. You are so afraid that your ideas are going to be challenged that you refuse to listen to someone else. And I find that incredibly sad. I find it incredibly sad that you have closed yourself off to learning anything else. This isn't even about the Karen Reed case. Do you conduct yourself like this in everyday life? Because I guarantee you probably don't. You probably don't act like an asshole all of the time. You probably don't go in and interrupt people unless it's a Boston thing. I don't know. Never been there. Hoosier here, as you can tell. But every single person has a different learning. And to simply say that because someone doesn't have the perspective you have, they're stupid, is a fear response. You want to disregard them. You want them to be stupid because if they're not, if they have facts, if they have receipts, then you have been thinking something that isn't correct for years. Those of us who don't fear, who are humble, who are willing to change our minds, we don't have those fears. We can listen to other people. We might not disagree, or we might not agree, or we might say, fair point, I didn't think about it that way. But my life, my identity, my, mental, surety in myself isn't going to disintegrate if my ideas are questioned. Again, if you have the facts, pound the facts. But you are pounding with just emotion, which giggity, and that's what she said.
To go over and help out in Iraq. Then when he comes home, he's got his job back on the fire department. Now I asked him that he had a friend that was in the DEA, had been in the DEA for his whole career. This is a guy who had been one of Brian's best friends. And did I say, I'm sorry, ATF. And so this guy tried to get him to recruit him to come into it. And he was interested. And I tried to get to the bottom of why he no longer wanted to be a firefighter. But when you try to ask these questions to people, it's not always an easy thing. It's because
and that is exactly why you cannot do an internal monologue. Because they don't want to talk about it. Again, you have to make things up if you don't have a good foundation of how they create and what their internal logic is, what their emotional balance is. You can do this with a fictional character because you can create all these parameters. You can very rarely do it with a person unless you sit down and have deeply in-depth conversations. I mean, autobiographers spend months or weeks interviewing, a person about their life. You can't do an internal monologue unless you have those foundational points. Otherwise, it is fictionalized.
You're asking someone to do a little bit of soul searching. So I said, for instance, did you miss the adrenaline of being in combat? And now you wanted something a little more active than sitting around waiting for a fire.
No, when you are trying to understand or get a feel of someone's internal logic, you don't throw out things. You listen. Here is your problem, sir. You probably couldn't even get to that because you don't listen. You throw out your hypothesis and you want that to be the case. You have to listen. You have to close this thing and open these.
And he said, no. He goes, I think more it's just the fire department is kind of sitting around waiting for something to happen, whereas in the military, you're planning missions. And so it was a more active part of your mind to be engaged in these things. That's all I was going to answer, brother.
Okay, but you didn't answer my question. Because you state in your book that it was because of the planning he did while in Iraq that he wanted to change career path. Then he
You
talked to
couldn't
his
follow what I
dad.
just said there. No, seriously, you couldn't follow the answer that I just said there. That it was the planning, not the adrenaline.
No, you didn't say that. In fact, you said the exact opposite. You said, and I quote, no, he goes, I think more it just the fire around waiting for something to happen, whereas the military, your part of your mind is engaged. So actually what he said was the exact opposite, that he wanted to be more engaged in active stuff, not planning stuff. Now, if you had said that he was deeply involved in logistics on the base, he liked the order that it created, it gave him a calm in the storm of Iraq, then you could, write that in a more flowery language. What you can't say is, whilst I was there, the day was calm, the, desert was warm. You cannot internalize that. That is, again, fictionalized. And I guess I'm trying to figure out what the line is here. And that's what Baker's trying to figure out. But you just said the exact opposite thing that you are arguing now. Did you not? Is it hard for you to understand your own logic? Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. I'm going to need a drink after this. Need all the drinks. And I still have to do Linda Sturmer today, which, ew. Someone wanted to, but it's kind of a, ew.
That's all I was going to answer, brother.
Okay, but you didn't answer my question. Because you state in your book that it was because of the planning he did while in Iraq that he wanted to change career path. Then he talked to his
follow what I
dad.
just said there. No, seriously, you couldn't follow the answer that I just said there.
No, he couldn't follow because you said the exact opposite. You said that he wanted more action. Now, I do have that in green letters on my stream. Just in case you want to call me a moron, you might want to take it up with the closed captions, you asshole.
That it was the planning, not the adrenaline. It's the active part of mission.
Yes, I'm asking you.
You really couldn't follow that.
Did he state that it was the planning? Because that's what you write in your book. And then
I just explained it to you. What's the point of asking?
Oh my God! Shut up! Use your ears. God gave you two in one fucking mouth hole. So what do you think He wants you to do with the mouth hole when someone is talking?
What was his role in?
I'm about to get table flipping Jesus around here.
The military was 100% consistent with what I said in the book, and for some reason,
and not consistent with the statement you just fucking made, you asshole. So if you want to be pedantic, if you want to be an asshole, Mo has receipts. We will go back to closed caption, because if you think that Baker is a pedantic asshole, I'm an auditory learner. I very clearly and closely listen to statements. In fact, if you say it, I will probably remember it. So how about when I was looking for admonished, I didn't hear it because I knew I already didn't hear it. Now, you can call me stupid because I don't have a degree. You can, cling to authority, the myth of authority. You can do that all you want. You can denigrate me. I know you're probably going to rip this up and call me, everything but Sunday. Just don't call me late for dinner because I like it warm. That being said, your statement just completely contradicted that. Again, if you are going to follow court cases, the art of using language that we all agreed on is something you need to work on. As an author, I would think a wordsmith such as yourself would understand the importance of clarity of language to convey thoughts.
Asking a clarifying question to what you stated in the book. Because as I understood
your book, I just clarified it.
No, I'm asking again because you didn't answer my question. Was Brian Higgins a private, a lieutenant? What was his role?
Knows. Next question, dude. I just answered your question, and it's ridiculous to say that I didn't.
So he wasn't a C4, and you just made that up. That's okay.
He was an E4. He was part of the E4 army, the E4 mafia. Well, there we go. That explains a whole shit ton of a lot. Sir, again, you didn't come here to do anything but show your ass. And you're doing that spectacular. So A for effort, D for denied, E for excuse me, and F for fuck yourself, okay? Now, personally, I believe in doing that in private, but I don't know what the rules are in Canton, okay? So apparently you have to be drunk to drive a car. First rule about E4 Mafia is we don't talk about E4 Mafia. Welcome, Debbie Webb. Thank you for lurking. I know he wasn't. He was probably a PFC, let's be real. And that's a private first class. Well, actually, he'd just be a private. Look, I am the only person in my family that failed basic. I am an achiever. Like, can you imagine being the black sheep of a family because you failed basic?
I didn't make anything up. I just gave you the answer, which was 100%. Even with a half a brain would see that what I just said was 100%. Now I know why you believe in the conspiracy. You just know.
Okay, let's go back because I really want to humiliate you. All right. Iraq, that he wanted to change career path. Now, I'm going to go slow for you, and I'm going to use a very soothing voice. Maybe that way you can kind of get the information like ASMR. I'll even whisper it. Iraq, that he wanted to change career path. There are no, seriously, you couldn't follow oh, crap. All right. Now, and I quote, you're asking someone to do a bit of soul searching. So instance, and you miss the adrenaline of being in combat, and you wanted to not be sitting around waiting for a fire. And he said, no, I think the fire department is kind of sitting around and waiting for something to happen. Missions, and so it was some more active part. And these are all the things I was going to answer, brother. Now, that entire sentence structure indicates that Mr. Higgins was looking for more action. And thank you so much. I have favorites. Thank you for the swear jar and Dolly Fund. And those stickers were just amazing. Peen stickers, I love them. I am so jealous, but they are perfect for Shizzy's helmet. Thank you so much. All right, so now let's go to your answer.
Okay.
No, I don't want to hear you talk because you fucking suck. So then we go to the thing that Baker says. You state in your book that it was because
of the plan.
Because of the planning, Iraq, that he wanted to change career paths. Now, again, you mentioned nothing in your answer about planning. You, in fact, indicated that Mr. Higgins wanted to be in the action, that he was tired of sitting around waiting for a fire. Do you understand the contradiction? And notice, I would like you to notice something. When I have gone back and done this, I've been generally calm. I haven't, cursed at you. I've simply shown you the receipts. If you would like to change someone's mind, that's how you do it. You calmly show them where you're wrong. You don't judge them. You just say, hey, maybe you should consider this. This is what you just said. And thank you, Rick's Cowboy. But that is the second time that I've gone through why it is that, Baker was confused. Now, Petty Mo is going to come out. Hey, fucktard, maybe you're so high, sniffing on your own farts that your prefrontal cortex isn't firing. And that's where the logical, thoughts happen in the brain. Now, I'm not going to say that, anything bad about you, but the fact that you came on with an attitude worse than a 14-year-old being told that she couldn't get something at Hot Topic. Did you eat a Snickers before this? Because you're kind of acting like a bitch. Now, I do have a bitch card. I have a pass, so I can call one as I see it. Sort of a bitchy umpire, if you will. Oh, my God. Why does this feel like it's taking forever?
5 minutes
I'm
to
asking
yell
you a
about.
question, and that's fair. I just asked you a quick question.
Why
'cause I
did
wanna
you
see if I wanna
miswrite
see if
in
you
your?
actually read the
Oh, crap. So I was off. Okay, here we are.
So
You
he
have to be the
wasn't.
dumbest
He wasn't.
motherfucker
He
I've ever
wasn't a
seen.
C4,
Unbelievable.
and you just made that up. That's okay.
I didn't make anything up. I just gave you the answer, which was 100%. Even with a half a brain would see that what I just said was 100%.
Yes, no, a person with a full functioning brain, I have had a, PET scan. So there we go, for science. That being said, your inability to see where you have made a mistake is a critical blindness if you want to argue your point. Any good lawyer, any good debater, any good, person who is trying to sell something is going to sit down and look at the other side and grant it just as much weight as them. Normally, when I'm thinking of an argument, it's E4. What the hell is he talking about C4? Good God. This man has, all right. You have a blind spot, sir. I'm not going to change your mind. I know you probably find me dumb and you have written me off as half-brained and stupid, and that's okay. That is fine. You can believe that. I can't change your mind. But what I can tell you is that if you want to get more people on your side, humility, listening to them, not talking over them, and granting them the absolute respect that another human being deserves. Had you walked in here, because I know Baker, had you walked into this interview acting like a respectful gentleman, not with an agenda, not to, call him a dumbass and call everyone a dumbass and basically be the king, galaxy brain amongst us, morons just wandering around in our own filth. I mean, again, that's a very comforting and very, very, intoxicating feeling. And I can understand why you have it. But had you come into this respectfully and wanted to talk about the book, Baker would have granted you that respect. But you came on and you immediately interrupted him. And I do not have the intestinal fortitude to go back and listen to you again. But I've shown you on closed captioning. One day, and I do mean one day, and this isn't, one day, if you cling so tightly to this and you don't listen to anything, it is going to crumble. And I don't know what you're going to do with that, but the ability to enlarge your, resources, look at new facts, rearrange things, those are important. Again, you could have come here without an agenda. Baker was giving you an opportunity to talk about your book. Yes, it might have been more adversarial than, someone that was on your side. But I do know that if you had come with respect to Baker, he would have given you respect back. Regardless of how you act on Twitter, he would have. But you came in with the attitude that these moron, trough, eaters, these swine, are beneath me. And all that's going to do is blind you to the faults in your own argument. And one day, those cracks are going to get bigger, regardless of what happens in this case. Your inability to become fluid, to give other sides a chance, is really going to hinder you in the rest of your life, along with your dickishness.
Now I know why you believe in the conspiracy. You're just not bright.
Plevin, do you wonder why people don't like you when you keep yelling at people?
I know why, because they're idiots. Like you.
No, because you.
Okay, so we have gone to the everyone that doesn't like me is an idiot. Now, that's about as intellectually, honest as everyone who doesn't like me is a Yahtzee. If you aren't able to argue your point, this is what you do, because you can't. If you were able to argue your point, you would.
You never provide anything.
You're so dumb. It's
if you want,
unbelievable.
okay,
It's
let's take it. I didn't want to do this because I wanted to be fair to you. I don't want it. What day did this happen?
I just answered your question.
What
and you're
day
pretend
did this
that I didn't.
happen?
What day did what happen?
When was John O'Keefe killed?
January 29th.
What day was that?
What day? It was a Saturday. Let me ask you a question.
No,
Did
stop.
you-
Stop it.
No, I'm
You
asking
just
you a
got
question.
5 minutes
I'm
to
asking
yell
you a
about.
question, and that's fair. I just asked you a quick question.
Why-
No, what's fair? You just insulted his entire audience. Had he kicked you off the fucking stream, I would not be upset. You just called every single one of his subscribers stupid. You called him stupid. And you expect him to wait to let you say something again? You know what's funny is when you call us idiots, we admit that there's stuff that we don't know. So it's kind of like, okay, it's like when my mom was mad and she said, son of a bitch. And I was kind of like, yes. I mean, okay, mom, facts and evidence. That being said, you just you just insulted all of his supporters, and he would have had every right to take you off of there. But he didn't. He continued to let you bloviate. You're about as useful as tits on a bull. No one needs another bloviating asshole on the internet. I think we have our quota. What we do need is someone who is intellectually open and willing to have conversations and not be a dickwad.
Why did you miswrite in your
actually read the book? I want to see if you actually read the book. Did you
that
read
you
my
misstated
chapter?
what day it happened?
I wanted to just a simple question. Did you read the chapter where I described Michael Proctor, his earlier life before becoming a cop? Did you read that chapter or what he does now?
The fuck do I want to read about Michael Proctor's young years? No, I'd rather listen to Liberace music. I'd rather do burpees naked in Walmart. Who the hell wants to hear about Michael Proctor? Again, as I have stated a multitude of times in this, if you wanted to seek righteous justice for John, why don't you go into Proctor's absolute mishandling of this case, his inability to maintain professional conduct, and the fact that every single motherfucking cop was driving drunk. Every single fucker in that group was driving drunk. And we are just lucky that one person lost his life. And I don't mean that to in any way diminish John O'Keefe's death, because that is a hole in a family that has already had enough tragedy. But if you really want to be mad on his behalf, why the fuck was the investigation so half-ass, slapdash, and stupid? Why the fuck did Michael Proctor, jeopardize this entire case by being unprofessional? Why did his superiors not call him in and say, knock this the fuck off? Because it was a culture of this kind of lackadaisical attitude. It was this, it'll get done when it gets done thing. If you want to be mad about that, because that is the biggest barrier to justice. You think we will even Steelman, you think everything the defense saying is bullshit? All of the things that they are presenting all got their basis, their genesis, their nexus, if you will, from discovery. They built their case on what the state gave them and actually didn't give them. These theories aren't coming from their asshole or the ether. They can't just outright lie. If you asked a lawyer who you consulted or didn't consult because apparently you're a spy for the government or something, I don't know. Seems like a weird, seems kind of conspiracy that you won't admit that you had legal counsel look at this or didn't. I don't know. Why are you being so conspiracy mysterious? This man's going to give me a daggone stupid tumor in my brain. A tumor of stupid, just like.
Any of his habits or hobbies?
Did you
came early in the book, and if you actually read the book, you'll have an answer on this. So this just proves to me you didn't read it.
I've read your entire book. I won't be able to give you everything that was, because it's very disjointed. And
give me one little thing about Michael Proctor's background, some of his interests.
That he had an impeccable record. He had a 10-year service on the force. you described him as, was it him who played baseball in third division, or was that Janetti?
Yes, thank you. That's good enough.
You
Thank you.
Oh, fuck you, asshole. He read it. Oh my God, you dickwad. You don't want him to continue because he will show the depth of which he read. And God forbid, you would let anyone expound on a damn point.
talk a lot about who played baseball, but my question is, why did you get it wrong what day it was? Because you claim it was Saturday night, which it wasn't. It was Saturday morning. When did the trip to Aruba take place?
Early January, New Year's Eve.
When do you have New Year's Eve in America? Because in Denmark we have it in December. It's a basic mistake. You just make that.
This is really where you're going to go.
I needed that. Holy fuck, you guys! I'm not going to get through this. There is not enough enhancement, or gummies, or edibles, or I would have to be at Cheech and Chong levels to deal with this, and that's not legal in my state, so I don't do that.
Go. All right. So I've got all of the
No,
evidence.
I really think you should have had an editor, because you make so many times you make the same mistake.
You've already lost. This is how shallow you are. You're going to
buddy,
try to find
you didn't even get simple facts.
He is shallow because you continue to not let him expound on anything. This is not a cross. You are not a lawyer. This isn't cross. You are supposed to, if you had any desire to enhance your argument by learning from the other side, again, most people who are into these trials like them because they can somewhat argue each side. That's why I like them. I like to think, how can I make this argument? How can I do this? What does the state see? What does the defense see? That's why we like it, because everything is gray. Again, had you been paying attention to trials, you would have understood that the lens through which you see things, your perspective, can change. That's why there are rules in limine. That's why there are motions in limine, because the state might see something as completely detrimental to their case, but the defense might see it as instrumental to their case. The law is all about differing perspectives. And if you don't know this perspective, you can't argue this one. And oh gosh, that looks like a threat. I'm in Indiana. I am crippled, and I don't have the energy or the inclination to give you any shenanigans. I know I don't have to say this to my, audience, but don't give this man any fuel to his fire. Leave him alone. The best, revenge for someone calling you stupid is going out and living your best life. Fuck him sideways with a cactus. He doesn't get to determine the validity of our argument. Just because you think our argument is stupid, you are one person with an opinion. What you fail to grasp as a writer and as a human is that differences in perspective are going to change differences in logic. What might be very important to me, and a point for which I would find Karen Read guilty, is dismissed by another person. This is why the law is so complex, because you have to be able to argue with this from many sides. You have to give respect and validity to the other side. What if the defense basically went in and acted like the state was a moron? And thank you so much, Slinky, for your donation to Dollywood and Swear Jar. Now, I will let you guys in. I have a Sarah Boone wig coming soon, and the last Saturday of this month will be a Boonathon Griftathon. That is right. Sarah Boone is back. She will be reading all of her letters. Now, these are the ones from the trial. I do have the family court stuff, but I really want to take time to look at it. So those will probably be coming out in little videos while I'm doing the Karen Read trial. And thank you so much, Slinky. But, I haven't put it up yet because I was thinking about what I was going to do for a Griftathon. But it will be a Boonathon Griftathon. No. Look, I also, I have tried wearing a fake mustache for science. I think I did it in the Karen. No, I did it in the Sarah Boone trial. And I don't know how you men deal with stuff on your lips, but I am so semi-autistic that I could not handle it. That being said, if you would like to, be involved, mark your calendars. The last Saturday of this month, I think I will do it at probably around the time that I usually do Legal Shenanigans Theater. So there will be no Legal Shenanigans Theater, but there will be a Sarah Boone-a-thon, or I might start it at noon. Look, you know me, I'm ADHD. The idea comes to me, and then I have to actually think of logistics. Again, I am humble enough to admit my flaws to myself. Everyone has flaws. You attempted fake humility by stating you didn't understand things. Then you failed to listen to someone who might teach you something. Do you see the error in that? You came in assuming Baker was stupid. And instead of letting him maybe challenge your argument and make you think about it more and really get more facts and say, oh, well, that part is a little weak. Maybe I need to get more intellectual facts to strengthen that. You came in with your ears fully closed.
Right in your book. And that's the big problem. I didn't want to go on and start yelling, but you want to antagonize. You called me an idiot, and you can't.
And what you're doing is petty. Do you not see that? All right.
What I do is petty. Okay, are you going to give a second edition where you will mend all the mistakes you made in this book?
I doubt there are any mistakes in this book, but there's always.
Okay, can you explain to me why the federal investigation has to adhere to Brady?
Yeah, it's not the investigation that has to adhere to Brady rules. What it is, you're out of state, and you're obviously someone that doesn't like to do research. But the fact is, that
brother, if you're going to call someone dumb, you better know the rules. That's all I'm going to say.
Brady versus Maryland, okay, was a Supreme Court decision, okay,
that Lally violated, that Brennan violated. Yes, I know Brady violations.
So
yes.
You asked a question and you said you're going to jump to something else. All right.
No, we are continuing on a Brady violation. He simply brought in the evidence that different people have done those things. He is actually expounding on the topic. He is not jumping to another topic. Have you thought about possibly that you're ADHD? And I'm not a doctorologist. Go talk to your doctorologist. In fact, dear Lord, if you are listening to me for medical advice, seek out medical help, but not me. Look, like seriously, don't be coming to a crazy redhead on the internets. Again, this is what happens when you are not willing to listen, because what Baker just said is simply expounding on the same topic. They were not differing topics. You established that Baker knew, or you bloviated that it was, Brady versus Maryland. It's a Supreme Court thing. Then Baker said, yes, I know, and these are the people who violated it. So it is in fact the same topic. It is sandwiched upon each other. It is not a completely different topic.
You claim multiple times that
Lally violated nothing because there's no evidence that he intentionally failed to turn over.
That doesn't matter. You have to go look at the Brady violation. No, Rule 14.
No, it does matter. It is a Brady violation, but it simply wasn't to the level that the judge, because the judge does have the ability to be the referee. The judge is the referee, and the defense did do a Brady violation motion. Now, the judge then listens to both sides because she has to be able to listen to both perspectives. Now, as being a judge is, subjective, she does have to stay within legal boundaries, but everything is subjective, and she can rule however she feels. This is where the human element comes into our legal system. Now, Bev listened to all the evidence and stated that it was, in her opinion, not detrimental enough to cause a Brady violation. But it was a Brady violation. She claimed it was intentional. That doesn't negate the Brady violation. That simply says that it wasn't intentional. Now, Baker is heated and he's not going to take his time to teach you this with crayons. But again, humility. I didn't know this stuff when I first started. I had no idea. I'm not claiming to be the smartest person here. I don't, know everything. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not LawTube, I'm LayTube, trademarked, single entendre. But I don't know everything. And I don't go out knowing everything. Yeah, I'm sassy. Yeah, I'm petty. But I come with facts. Sir, one second as I try not to break things as I get my notepad. I want to show you something, sir. Just because I'm a moron. I do know joined up writing, though, so my mom's real proud. I've been following the Linda Sturmer case. And yes, you can see my trash and all that. Well, so for this legal pad, for an 8-day case right now, I'm only on day 8. I have half a legal notepad filled out. Because while my job is to be petty, is to be funny, is to be silly, it's also my job to know the facts and be able to, communicate them to my audience. And to try to do my best to communicate facts, to be able to tell people in chat, okay, if you just jumped in, this is who we are and this is where we're going. Now, I don't claim to be the smartest, person in the world, but I also work my ass off to give my subscribers, information and, correct things and entertainment. Yes, you'll probably write me off as, just some ridiculous lady with, a bunch of wigs who makes fun of things. And that's perfectly all right. I am a deeply unserious person about most things. But you don't insult my friends, and I'm not going to listen to you insult my friends anymore. I'm not going to watch the rest of your stupid stream. I mean, not you, Baker, but you don't insult people, especially on their own channel. You don't go into another man's house and insult them and then expect to be treated with respect. Now, I don't know who didn't teach you that. I don't know what happened in your life to make you such a giant dickhole. But what I can tell you is that every single person has gone through some bullshit. And it doesn't give you the excuse to be an asshole. Just because you think you're right doesn't give you a magical card to asshole land, like you seem to think it does. You can be right all alone on a king hill of rightness and go fuck right off of that. If it's more important for you to be right now and not be a decent human being and listen, again, Baker, we'll go back just one second because I really, really need to hammer this home.
Second book club. First one was on my own release on my children's book. Today we have Kevin from Yellow Cottage Tail on to talk about his book on his view of the Karen Read case. Or would you claim is it, I've been reading it and I've told you, and you people who follow us on Twitter know we don't always agree on everything. Mostly not. Is it meant to be a fact book? Is this going to be, okay, I'm going to look up what did Higgins say? What did Karen Read say in the case? Or is it more a fictionalized retelling of the characters around the case?
I'm not sure why you would use the term fictionalized, because there's nothing, the only
Because you inserted internal monologue that you couldn't know unless you deeply talked to the person. Again, Baker started off a little bit more, I wouldn't say, but he is on the opposite side. You have to know that he's probably going to question you. Now, myself as a type A chaos demon, again, the warring sides in my personality, I am almost too type A to function, and yet I am ADHD. So I make a lot of lists and don't follow through, is basically what I do. That being said, I would have facts. I would try to think, again, the intellectual elasticity that it takes to understand where Baker is coming from so that you can, figure out what parts of your argument he might attack. If you've deeply followed the case, you're going to know everything that the defense, has an issue with, and you're going to have a counter to that. Now, again, you might not have notes. You might have this all in your head, but these are things that you're probably going to be thinking about if you're going to go on a channel where they have a different opinion. You should go in knowing that they're probably going to be a bit skeptical and not take that skepticism as disrespect. Again, I don't think Baker was disrespectful, but you have said quite a lot that Baker was disrespectful from the beginning. Again, he, had acknowledged that you guys do not agree on things and that you had already talked backstage about the things that you disagree with. Now, you should know then that some of the things, even in that little bit of time, say you had a butthole clench moment, like I didn't think that he was going to ask that. Because you wrote the book, you should have sort of a compendium, like a great idea of that page and all the data that you collected to make that page or that section of your book. You should be able to go through and say, oh yeah, the book or the chapter on Michael Proctor, pull it up on a Word document. We had a record. Okay, so you won't want to say when you talk to them. I had 3 recorded audio, interviews, about 10 hours. We went deeply into some things. I do have the recordings, just in case. I also looked at the publicly available, documents about his police career. I talked to his family. Again, if you are going to do an internal monologue, people's internal monologues are also shaped by their family. This is why it would be fictionalized, because I'm going to go on a limb, and maybe you didn't deeply dissect every piece of Proctor's life, because that's what you have to do to write an autobiography. That is what you can do to, add an internal monologue. That is considered normal, because an autobiography or even a ghostwritten autobiography is someone who has deeply understood the entire history of a person and basically from the horse's mouth can, take what they said, put a little flowery language on it, but it doesn't change the general concept enough that you can't have internal monologue. I just don't even know what to say. Oh, dear God. Well, Baker, you are my hero, because you managed to stay oh wait, let's go back. Let's go to everyone making fun of people, because I can deal with that. Okay. I can't deal with him no more. We're going to go. Oh, he's getting red. Sir, blood pressure is bad. Okay. Off my screen.
Well, that was probably not something I'm going to do again.
You can officially see when Baker's like, what the fuck did I do with my life?
Yeah. I really don't understand. This is the big guy on the other side. I'm a stupid little baker with a small channel. I really wanted to talk about his book. He wanted to turn it into a debate about all the other stuff because he can't answer simple questions. He has several misstatements in his book about timelines. He has several misstatements where he puts in internal dialogue that has no way he has any access to. It's very, very disjointed. It goes back and forth between his personal life, when he started his YouTube channel, some team he has, he never declares, and there is absolutely no facts or evidence provided. It's just, I believe this part, and I'll only listen to this part. You must believe me. I can't recommend the book, and I'm sorry I didn't pull up any of the super chats and everything doing, but sometimes old big guy has to swallow hard and just remind myself, you can bite the pillow and take it. If you can do it for Valhalla, you...
You know, Baker, you should have just done the laughing exercise, like, oh my God, Baker, you should have done the laughing exercise, like just in the middle of whatever Plevin was doing. Now, if you are wondering if I just had a spastic attack and don't understand what I'm talking about, well, I encourage you to join Baker, myself, and Jamie on Stabby Days, most Saturdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's a fun, we listen to a lot of horror bad stuff, deal with Plevin, and, deal with Bev all week. So it's a place where we go find oddities. We kind of joke around. It's not always safe for work, but we do find the oddities of the internet. So definitely if we need a stress relief after this, and of course, make sure you check out Friday Night Lights. I believe Baker might be on with Expert tonight. They always have fun. It's a bunch of things. It's usually past my bedtime, but it's a great fun thing. What YouTube channel? If one of the mods could... Oh, Tim put up Broken Baker, and then you can sub to him, and Stabby Day. Usually he is so good at putting like his streams all up like the week before. I'm trying to get there.
You can do it for Plevin. Bail money. Thank you, therapist, I know. And Big Dog, thank you for gifting 5 Broken Baker memberships. I hope some of them went to all the nasty people in here. Thank you, Joyful, for a $20 super sticker. Oh, I have to remember to put down things on a piece of paper. I was actually dreading doing this because I knew it would be this. I saw him on another debate yesterday. It's his style. I'll start yelling. I can't talk because I don't have the facts. I just have insults. And you saw the trolls in chat, and you're thinking, why bother? Why? I actually promised him a fair review. I told all of you that I was gonna do a fair review. Sadly, thank you, Giant D, for 5 memberships. Sadly, that's not what he's here for. I said it before. I was gonna talk about his book, and he said, I think it's better for your chat that we talk about the case. But it's just the same thing he yells every single time. It has nothing to do with facts. He's so blinded by his hatred. Talk time with Amy in Boston. Thank you for saying trash. I do agree. Jemima, swear John font. We'll have to get onto that. And the expert, a super sticky. Normally I like debating. I used to be a politician.
Also, Plevin, what people generally do before they go on to someone's channel, especially if they're going to be debating them because you wanted to do that, you in fact asked to debate, about the case. Generally, what they do is investigate their opponent, not in the weird, like stalkery way, but more to get an idea of their background, because you want to kind of understand the prism through which they're going to be coming from. you would have looked at Baker, you would have maybe watched one of his streams and realized that he is a lay juror. So while he maybe, has to ask questions about American law, he does have a very deep basis in sort of the concept of the law, the sort of undergirding foundation, which would translate easily into American law. While the statutes might be different, the concept is still the same. While the courts in Denmark might not be exactly the same, there are going to be similarities, and Baker is going to be able to draw upon that wisdom. He was also a politician, so he is going to be able to be a politician. He has to be able to converse and get his message across easily. So maybe you would anticipate that he would be able to talk clearly and, convey his message quite well. Again, he had to get elected. You would probably take in that he's personable, that, by his numbers, people seem to like him. So again, all of these things should have been part of your mental sort of preparation for this time, especially if you came in asking to talk about the case. So again, I don't know what your preparation was other than preparation 8 for butt hurt, but go ahead, sir. And again, please, I beg you, tear me to pieces. It's not going to bother me. I'm doing an honest review. I will be saving my judgment. Again, my job or my sort of position on Baker's second seat for the Karen Reed trial is my unique perspective because I'm not fully involved in the case. I have not deeply made an opinion. I will be looking at facts. And it's the same thing I did in the first case. I didn't have an opinion. I wasn't a turtle lemming or whatever, a turd tard or whatever you want to call them. I had no idea who the fuck Turtle Boy is. I don't listen to him, honestly, to be real honest. And Aiden, you're just not my jam. You're a little too loud, and I can't handle loud noises all the time. I'm not disrespecting him. He is a great, he makes popular, great content. He does a lot of work. Look, the thing is, I'm not here to start drama with no one. Now, I know you're going to see this as a salvo, as an attack or anything, but I came into this stream, again, with a slight bias. I'm going to admit it. I know Baker personally. I know the good, kind, genuine human being that he is. I knew nothing about you. Sir, I didn't even look at your channel. I wanted to come in with a blank perspective on you. And I did that purposely. I haven't watched this stream yet because I didn't want to come in with any preconceived notions. I gave you the full benefit of my doubt. And I can tell you that you actively made me not want to look at anything that is pro, Karen Reed is guilty. Because my fear is that every single person on that side is going to be just as big as asshole as you. So before you accuse me of being a Turtle Boy person, I have 6 kids. I don't have fucking time to listen to Turtle Boy. So I don't know Turtle Boy. I don't know, all the 973 channels involved in this case. I'm currently working or doing the Petty Express for Linda Sturmer. And that's the case I'm looking at. But what I will tell you is that you made a terrible impression. Terrible. You strike me as someone who is deeply scared that his, message is going to be tainted by something new. And if you cling too tightly to your, preconceived or bias against, look, like I said, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be very honest with yourself, point out the bad facts in your case in order to argue against them. If you can't be honest with yourself, if you can't, actually look and critique your own argument, then there is no way that that argument is sustainable. Let's go back to Baker. But on a personal note, Baker has been the kindest, most helpful, sounding board, kind of venting board, and a kind and genuine actual person. He has helped me out. He has let me borrow his sticker idea. That's why I made, the curse jar. He never minds if I take some of his ideas and work them in, for myself. He never minds if I say, hey, I have this idea and I would like you to think about it. Or, hey, why do you think, what are you doing that, you think is helping? He doesn't say, I don't have time. I'm a big shot now. He doesn't say, you're stupid. Figure it out yourself. No. And if you'll notice something, all of Baker's supporters are kind. They're not here calling people stupid. They're not, attacking people. I mean, now they will match energy because, as I always say, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, but have a sassy mouth and carry a can of bitch fire because kindness doesn't equal doormat. So, yeah, you can call a lot of people things. It's not going to make your argument stronger. You can yell that we're all stupid to the hills fall down till, final form Jesus comes down and takes us all on a rapture. But you're going to be screaming to an ever smaller crowd. Because if you spew negativity all the time, and really, I'm just telling you, if you spew negativity all the time, people want an escape. They don't want negativity. That's why Baker and I sometimes have fun. These cases are incredibly hard. At the bottom of this case, you asshole, while you are swinging John's dead body around like some sort of sword and shield, you continue to miss the biggest part of this, that the investigation was corrupt. Again, if you want justice for this, I think that we should all unite and admit and be intellectually honest that this investigation was bad. And your assumption that the free Karen Reed people don't care about John is grossly myopic and stupid. And I didn't know that a mind's eye could get glaucoma, but there you go. Who knew? But the weakness of the argument doesn't, increase or decrease when you call everyone stupid.
And I but you debate on facts. He's just yelling, especially when his facts doesn't work. It's sad that this is the best. Again, I am the smallest pro Karen Reed channel out there probably, and this is the best they have. I'm about. Should I get Krusty on? I think she could do better. F words, a lot of them. K-Dubs, a super sticker. I can't even write. I'm so deflated. I thought this could be kind of fun, and we might be able to talk about how he doesn't know what a grunt makes in the military. I think I have to put you on the paper as well. That he thinks that someone writing security in Iraq is, but that again is because his book, more than anything.
Here's the other thing, Mr. Plevin. If you did talk to Mr. Proctor, what was his MOS? What was his basic training? What was his AIT? Did he have a forward career path? Was he going in for, officer? When was he deployed? What was his battalion? What was his secondary MOS? All of these things you should know if you're going to do an internal monologue. And there is no C4 in the military. There is an E4, unless he was in the Navy, but I didn't know that the Navy went to Iraq, because he could have been a CW, a Chief Warrant Officer, or CWO, but I didn't think the Navy was there unless, oh my God, was Higgins an undercover Navy SEAL? Did he play Call of Duty too? Was he a sniper? Again, to accurately portray an internal monologue, you need to know all of these things and the framework of their foundational belief system. You need to see and understand and be able to put your perspective into, and you seem to be incredibly unable to put yourself in another person's perspective. You seem incredibly unable to, with respect, with giving them the due courtesy of being a human fucking being, look at their argument. And your argument is weaker because of it. I don't generally like to help people when they call my friends and everyone I know stupid. And I doubt you're going to take this because you can't open yours and shut your mouth long enough to stop your self-congratulatory fucking of, your ego in front of everyone. You are a boil on the taint of humanity, allegedly in Minecraft, and just my opinion.
It needs a plot and it needs an editor. You can get a halfway decent book out there from it if you will just admit, it's a part hearing. You have nerve coming on panels with personal attack. In my opinion, it's because you have nothing smart to say to support your stance. Free all house mouse. Is that what I think that means? Thank you so much talking. And again, he just does it because then he can get kicked off a panel and he can go crying on the YouTubes or the twats about how evil and we don't want to hear. Thank you, Megan Florida, for the swear jar. But you can't listen.
Okay, Plevin, I'm sure you're going to jump on the fact that was Higgins, not Proctor. Sir, let me give you a little idea of what you would have to know about me to make an internal monologue, okay? Because this is the depth of knowledge about a person you would need to know. Now, looking at me, you probably don't know that my pain level right now is about a 7 or an 8. You probably don't know that, I just had to buy a new walker so I can go to Dollywood. You probably don't know everything that has happened since I was born to create the woman that is right here. But what you would know is if you looked at me, if you asked me from my perspective, you would understand that I have a complex, neurological disease that makes sometimes recalling of names difficult. Now, I don't excuse it. I always correct it or try to correct it. And when chat helps me find it, I'm appreciative because I understand my weaknesses and therefore rely on help from people that can help me. The dumbest person in the world doesn't take wisdom when it's offered. And I'm not calling you dumb. I'm saying it is a dumb action. Now, whether you choose to interpret that as me calling you dumb is basically on you. And that's another lesson on perspective. The way you receive that can be incredibly different from the way I intended it. And to understand all that complexity is what you need to build an internal monologue.
Listen to him because I thought I was fair. I saw a few trolls in the chat, but I didn't feel like I tried to ambush him until he started spewing his.
It is the craziest thing. I keep seeing his super chat and I want to click it off. I'm like, get off the screen. Get off.
Stupidities at me. Iris, how was she at his house when he was dead? Yeah, that's one of the other things. And some evidence works, some evidence doesn't work. And
Tim, it doesn't have a coffee cup holder. I have to buy that accessory, but it does have a cane holder. And I think I can create that to be a tactical something. I mean, I don't know. Now, I am on the lookout for a cane that, is old and possibly, a fencing sword. That being said, I would not be allowed to take it outside because Mr. Mo knows me. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Santiago wasn't calling anyone stupid. It was Doofus McButthole. I don't even remember his name. Again, sir, this is not a sign of my lack of intelligence. It's actually the fact that my pain level is increasing. And here's what you need to understand about perspective, sir, and I'll kind of leave you with this because I think I've belabored the point enough. In order to get my internal monologue, you would have to understand, and I would have to be able to relate to you, that as my pain increases, my bandwidth to do complex, top level kind of executive functions in my brain does decrease because most of my brain is, being used and confused by the different and confusing nerve signals that my parasympathetic nervous system is misfiring. Now, in order to understand my internal monologue, you would understand that I'm kind of embarrassed about, my name thing. I used to be very good at names. I used to be very good at dates. I used to not have to take all the notes. I could just remember by listening to something. But because so much of my bandwidth is taken up with, dealing with my pain, yes, I mess up names, I mess up dates, but I don't mind. I don't call my, chat stupid for correcting me. I appreciate it. I guess that's just the difference between you and me. After my early 20s, I pulled my head out of my ass.
He's so blinded to everything that goes against his way of listening. Swearing and his name calling font. Thank you, Krista. Yeah. And what is it with these name calling? You're stupid, your chat's stupid. Yeah.
Oh, and sorry, Baker is better at this than I am. I was going to have my phone up. Let's see here. Thank you so much, Kathy Michelle, for doing a buy me a coffee shenanigans pass. I will get better at this, I promise. Okay, it will be probably the 4 years from now on Leap Day, but one day I will be a fully functional human being, and I expect a parade.
Jemima, did I do totally wrong?
No. I stopped modding when after I think the second time he insulted you and like your audience where he called everyone stupid.
Yeah, I never got to talk about his rules of Yellow Cottage Tale and why he has rule 6, 1, 15, 12, 24, 16, 14. But not 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13. Thank you, Marissa, for saying when I'm in the living room, but Way say I'm in the garden shed right now. And it's such a stupid thing because he doesn't want to be open about what he saw or what you can. He'll harper onto one little thing. It's stupid. Brandon says, Plevin versus AOC bartending competition fund. Time will tell who can make the best cocktails. It's big booty required or is Forrest Gump IQ? Well, I know what Plevin is bringing.
Right? GPS is so inaccurate, it's not even funny. Like, there was a point where we had checked Nate's, and it showed he was, like, in the middle of the ocean when he was really, like, on base.
Yeah, and everyone who have had, we sat with the calibrated GPSs in the military, and we could see how it's shifts because it depends on how the satellites. That's why you don't say this is where they are. That's why you draw the circle because it could be anywhere.
Okay, you guys. So I'm going to give some of my thoughts. Plevin, what they were discussing right there, and here is something I've learned from a free lesson for you that I've learned from trials. Evidence that isn't really DNA or fingerprints or hard, physical evidence like that, ballistics, anything that is subjective has really been challenged in the last couple years. I don't know if you're aware of it, but ballistics has been challenged in several courts, I think in Maryland, in fact. So there is no infallible science. Every science is going to come with a degree of, inaccuracy or, again, we are at current technological times. Since technology is exponentially, growing, yes, in 2 years, there might be a way to absolutely, narrow down mitochondrial DNA due to, excuse me, mutations that, occur on the alleles, and then we can use mitochondrial DNA to positively identify one singular human being. But things like ballistics, things like the, GPS are subject to interpretation. There are reasons that they can't say 100% that you are in one spot because there is a degree of inaccuracy. And to say that you are affirmatively in that spot with no fallibility is not in evidence. There is always a greater or less than. It is subjective. It is, again, something that people have to interpret. The same thing for ballistics, because the human mind likes to find patterns and it is subjective. There are criteria and sections that they must find. They must find a primary tool mark, then a secondary, and then they are supposed to, find several different factors in each that make it unique. Because there is the human factor. It's the same reason why you see faces or in things. Why, if you look at an outlet, you can see a face, because the human brain is hardwired to find patterns and, figure things out. It goes back to when, we started getting bigger brains so we could learn how to make fire. Unless you believe in intelligent design and then God made Adam and Eve and somehow it happened magic. I mean, I'm a Christian. I don't know. I just don't think science can be divorced from, religion, but that's why I got a lot of trouble when I was in Catholic school. Anyhoozle, you guys, thank you so much for joining me on this. Hagatha the Leg is done. And I encourage you to go listen to after an hour and 20 minutes, Baker has a fun conversation with everyone, and no one gets called an idiot but Plevin. So I encourage you to go watch on his channel, sub to him if you're not subbed. I have earned your sub, obviously, please sub to me. I am working on more member contents, musings with Mo. I will tell you that all of the rain last weekend was really effective. Again, Plevin. For an internal monologue, you have to understand people's struggles. Did you talk to, any of them about their sort of struggles, what they deal with, how they make decisions? No. Anyhoozle, let's see who I can send you to. And again, Mr. Plevin, if you make a bunch of reaction videos about me, I will be too busy watching, probably, gosh darn it, what am I watching right now? Well, I'm watching My Hero Academia right now, so I will be busy watching My Hero Academia, and if it makes you feel better to cut me down, by all means. I can't stop you. I'm not your mama. I don't get taxes from you, so, I'll just say bless your heart, and, you're going to have to explain that to Jesus. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I've never been dead before. So there you go. As you can tell, the pain is getting pretty high because I am scrolling just like Plevin's books. That being said, sir, honestly, life isn't, life is really short. And if the legacy you leave is to be a bombastic asshole and that's what you want, then congratulations, you're doing it. Well, no one puts Baker in a corner, and no one calls me stupid, unless it's me, which is frequent and often. Again, humility is a thing. You might want to get some. Humble pie doesn't taste good, but, it can help you grow. Bye, you guys. As I always say, be kind to yourself, Be kind to others, but have a sassy mouth and carry a can of bitch fire because you might run into a plevin. And we're no longer doormats. Bye, you guys.